We got another backhoe video here. Recently, well, I guess not too long ago, I started having hydraulic oil drip out onto my feet and onto the shifter, and it was coming straight from the center of the steering wheel, like up through the steering shaft, and it's coming from the steering control valve input seal. So I'm going to replace that in this video, and I'm going to show you how. So this is probably the hardest part of the job, is getting the steering wheel off, but what I did was get the nut loose first, and then I just used a bearing splitter set up as seen here, and I put light pressure on it, and then I tapped the drive screw with a hammer, and that eventually popped the steering wheel loose. Sometimes you can use these small threaded holes to pull it off as well, but they're really close together and they are very, very small. Next, I pried this bushing up with a screwdriver. Next, I removed the bracket and loosened the clamp at the bottom of the steering tube. So for this part, you'll see me do the top and the bottom, but you only have to remove the lower C-clip and pin and just take everything off as an assembly. Now for removing this dust seal, the original is steel reinforced, so I'm just using a screwdriver here to pop it loose, and it comes right off. There's a snap ring in here that comes out next. You'll just have to feel around for the eyelets on it. Now I'm just turning the steering input shaft back and forth, and this builds pressure behind the seal to help lift it up and out. Just tapping around on the brass backer to make sure it doesn't get caught on the way out. Notice there's a backup ring that I removed with mine. I also noticed that my seal is slightly shorter than the new seal. I didn't see this backup ring in the parts catalog or in any of the new seal kits, so I decided to not reinstall it. Now it's time to install a seal. Make sure the lip is facing down And when you install this brass backer, the large part is facing up because that's what the snap ring holds down to. I actually had to go back in. I had to remove the brass ring and push the seal down manually with the pick, similar to what I'm doing right here. But once it's seated down, I reinstalled the brass backer. For the C-clip, I had to do the same thing, just get it started and then work it in. I do want to point out that it would probably be a good time now, before putting this tube on, to go ahead and test it and make sure it's not leaking before fully assembling it. It was right here that I realized that little collar actually wasn't pressed onto the shaft. So I managed to get it pried off with a screwdriver, and then I just pressed the two together, that rubber bushing and the collar. I pressed those together using a vise, and I just put them back on as an assembly. Unless you have a deep enough socket, I really don't recommend doing this. I actually damaged the top thread to that shaft while I was doing this, but without realizing it. It caused me a lot of headache later, but I was able to grind it off and fix it. But just be mindful of that. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I've put about 5 hours on the machine since filming this video, so I can confidently say it's good to go. I didn't see any other video out there on replacing this seal without removing and disassembling the control valve, so I hope that this was helpful.